This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Straczynski. On today's show, WWE and the fallout of a corporate merger. What's going to happen with the corporate structure of WWE, what that means for the on-screen product, what that's already meant for the on-screen product, as well as what that means for the backstage creative. We've got a lot to unpack with WWE. WrestleMania just took place. I think WrestleMania 39, for everything that took place on screen, everything that took place around WrestleMania, and everything that has taken place post-WrestleMania will be remembered for a long, long time. Massive signings in AEW. We've got to get to all of that. We're going to talk about all of this. We're going to break it all down. You're going along for the journey. Doing it with me as always. He's the one. He's the only. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
Adam, it's weird. We should be sitting here excited, ready to talk about a new WWE season, a new champion, lots of opportunities to look at who could take Cody Rhodes' title, but instead they went a different direction. And for me, it was weird because it felt like WWE WrestleMania was a culmination of a really great 9 months stemming from SummerSlam, and creative was good. Everybody was happy. We were loving life. Wrestling was what we envisioned it could be with storylines and potential outcomes. But then the way in which they ended it, the big build-up, finished the story, the way in which WWE handled it by giving the pop to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, which I understand. But once that happened, once night one wrapped up, the first thing I think I texted the group was, what does that mean for Cody? And it made it hard to believe that Cody would also get it. And the way they ended it, you get it. It was a beautiful match, beautiful story told in the ring. But in the end, you just felt, for me, it took like 48 hours just to come down from that, just to be just so disappointed in the way in which WWE went. You really could have told a lot of good stories with WrestleMania. You could have had the payoff. And I just think that I agree with a lot of sentiments of those that will say this. I don't think Cody Rhodes will be at a bigger point in his WWE career than he would be main event of WrestleMania, 81,000 people, everybody on the internet screaming his name, everybody wanting him to bring out and bring about something that he has been working towards since he debuted in WWE a long time ago. And you dropped the ball. And I just think that for me, it was weird in that nothing this week in WWE really made me feel excited or hopeful. It was kind of like a big shit in my favorite ice cream. And you're just like, what the hell? You took a big dump in everybody's joy in the world of wrestling that wanted to see Cody. I mean, it was just weird to describe, but I just think you should have paid it off. I mean, you could have went a lot of different directions. You could have even had the same story that you're telling just from a different side. Roman challenges Cody, and then Brock comes out, and then you do the same thing. I think it would have been spectacular for everyone to believe that Roman would have been Cody's first challenger, but in the end, it would have ended up being Brock Lesnar. So for me, it just felt like a big malaise this week, just a big letdown with everything that kind of surrounded it. It was just, and it's happened before, but this time the culmination of all the disappointment just makes you feel like blah this week. We should be excited talking about WrestleMania. There will be good things to talk about, but in the end, in totality, I thought WrestleMania was a dud.
Yeah, and look, me and you talked about this in the middle of the week. Coming out of WrestleMania, we both felt like WWE completely dropped the ball with not just Cody Rhodes. I think when you look at WrestleMania 39 as a whole, this was a pretty anticipated show, and I think there were a lot of bad builds, but it was still a highly anticipated show. It's always anticipated, but this one had something special. It felt special. It felt like you had to see this one. And you look back at night one, and I think for the majority, night one was okay. You get to the final 2 matches of night 1, and it really sent everybody home incredibly happy. And you were like, man, night 1 was great. Night 1 was awesome. And when you really look back at it, it was really 2 matches that saved night 1. And then you get into night 2, and night 2 was an unmitigated disaster. I don't care how you feel about the Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes ending. Night 2 was a complete disaster. It was a waste. There was one really good match on that entire show, and then you had a match to close the night that went roughly an hour. 59 minutes and 30 seconds of it was great. And then you had the final 30 seconds, which really put a damper on the entire night. It was really frustrating coming out of WrestleMania. And I don't know if you ever get back to the level that you were at with Cody Rhodes. I don't know if you can ever get back to where he was at, the popularity. It felt like it was a coronation. It didn't feel like this was a match. It felt like this was a coronation. This was the last hurdle he had to get over to be crowned. And there were parts of WrestleMania 39 that felt so Vince McMahon produced and so Vince McMahon-esque. The crowd totally was into Cody Rhodes. And just to give the big middle finger to the crowd, Vince steps in and changes something at the last second like he used to. It's what it really felt like. And we can kind of break down what was talked about in the post WrestleMania presser, but it was frustrating. WrestleMania 39 was incredibly frustrating. And let's just quickly run through some results so everybody kind of knows where that lays. Night 1, you had Austin Theory beat John Cena. No surprise. Street Profits defeated Ricochet and Braun Strowman, the Viking Raiders, and Alpha Academy. Thought it was a good match. Seth Rollins pins Logan Paul. This one was confusing. You were pumped for this. You felt like this was the right move. I know Kenny and I felt like this was a little bit confusing because Logan Paul seems like he's the next big thing in WWE. And for him to just straight up get pinned by Seth Rollins, I don't know necessarily where he goes from here. So we'll have to wait and see with that. Lita, Becky Lynch, Trish Stratus beat Damage Control. Rey Mysterio beats Dom. That was a feel-good story. Rhea Ripley pins Charlotte Flair. Now, this was an amazing match. I thought this match was absolutely incredible. I thought Rhea looked so good. Charlotte actually looked interested. I was so pumped for this match. You know I hate Charlotte Flair. If you go back and you read her group text messages, you know I was just shitting all over Charlotte. But she actually helped make Rhea in this match, and Rhea looked absolutely incredible. What did you think of the Rhea Ripley Charlotte Flair match? Because this was one of 2 matches on this night that I gave monster thumbs up to, and I was incredibly pumped for.
Best thing you can say is worthy of being even in the main event. It was quality. Charlotte sold, Rhea believed, and it was a culmination of what you'd want. Maybe like you would on the men's side. Someone taking on an established vet, someone that you want to build up, someone that you want to take to the next level, someone that you want to kind of view as maybe Triple H's guy. And this is Triple H's gal. Obviously, you can tell. And it does kind of lend to that. But it's interesting because on SmackDown, you get Triple H introducing Rhea. Why wasn't that potentially given to Cody Rhodes? Now, look, obviously, when you see what's going on, it's going to happen with Cody. There's no doubt about it. Look, this guy is going to eventually be a champion. It's just the idea of when. And it's not the debate of is Cody Rhodes worthy of carrying the company. Come on, guys, he's going to be the champion. But it's the same old model that they use with certain wrestlers, which is we want to get them more over with sympathy, like a Daniel Bryan. We want to get them where they lose in 28 seconds, and then the crowd psychologically feels bad for them. Guys, listen. We analyze wrestling daily. We talk about it daily. We all know the reasoning behind it. And I get it. The average fan would understand that, oh my gosh, now we have sympathy for Cody. We're doing the hard times angle, the lovable loser. We all get it. But what I'm saying is, and what the debate that Adam and I agree with, is that he's already been through the hard times. I mean, Stardust, shitty characters, going to another company, coming back, the injury. You don't need the extra salt in the recipe. You've already put a fucking half a pound of salt in this story. There's a backstory. There's time invested. It's the biggest moment in the present. And here's the thing that I don't understand with WWE. From the top level thinking is he's been injured. So you don't give him the opportunity. Rhea's been injured. So in WWE, you realize that the best time in my mind, if I'm the booker, is the present. But Rhea Ripley has been given the nod, and you can tell that she's one of the darlings of the front office, and it's well-deserved. She's got the total package. Now, for me, is that more of what my appeal would be in a female wrestler? The dark, gothic, tattooed lady? Not really. I'm more potentially into the Bayley or the Asuka kind of character, a little bit unique in that sense. But Rhea's going to carry the company for the next decade, and well-deserved.
Yeah, definitely. She is the next culmination of whatever that women's champion is going to be. Whoever it is that's going to help carry that women's division, she is it. She's got a great look. She's powerful. She looks good in the ring. She can cut a great promo. She is the it girl. I'm excited for whenever her and Bianca do decide to mix it up. I think that'll be a fantastic match. Now, another match that I thought was really, really good, but I think the ending is what we'll all remember and really got everybody excited. Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, they end up pitting the Usos. And just the way that this unfolded, the ending of this match was incredible. With Sami Zayn getting a ton of offense. And they beat the shit out of Sami Zayn through the course of this match, only for him to rise like a phoenix and deliver the smashing blows. I thought this was fantastic. This is what you came for, right? This is how you send a crowd home happy. Everybody was pumped. Word on the street is everybody basically hung around the arena for another hour or two after this match because they were so excited. Everybody was so on the edge of their seat. Everybody was on their feet. Everybody was so pumped up for this match. What did you think of finally the culmination of Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens telling this part of the story, which if you watched SmackDown, if you watched Monday Night Raw, it's still kind of continuing. There is still more to unfold here, but the major hurdle, I think we are now at the climax of this story. Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, pin the Usos. What did you make of it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the culmination. Great match, great storytelling, and it is going to be a lovely, lovely run in regards to the next step for Sami Zayn. It's well-deserved, and that's all you can ask for from these characters and the story that they told. It was worthy that the team did take the title. And I'm surprised from some of the fantasy bookers that come on this podcast that it wasn't Sammy and Jay that ended up being a team and being all together. It was actually Kevin and Sammy. What do you know? What a novel idea. Two longtime friends that have been feuding come back together to take the title. What a novel idea. I'm surprised they didn't go with Jay and Sammy formulating an unholy union to take the title at WrestleMania or to break up the Usos that way. But, being a fan of tag team wrestling, I'm happy with this, and I'm curious to see how this moves forward. And like I said, the number one thing that many people are going to talk about is, can WWE bring the level of the tag division up? Because you got to do more. I mean, you haven't done enough with the Street Profits because you keep having them take losses. The Alpha Academy might be on their way out. The other top teams you basically need a little bit of more investment in character development with the other teams, and then you can have a nice run. And it seems like for now, there's just going to be an extension of the Usos feud. So it's going to be all the way around. You've gotten people invested in those two characters, and that's at least step one in the evolution of this next season of WWE.
Then we move into night two. So everybody goes home happy night one. We move into night two. Lesnar defeats Omos in a match that lasted under 5 minutes. Ronda Rousey, Shayna Baszler basically did nothing in a match, got the win as they defeated Shotzi, Natalya, Sonya Deville, Chelsea Green, Raquel Rodriguez, and Liv Morgan. Probably the best match in the night. If you like hard-hitting, thunderous action, it was just a meat factory. Just big men doing big men things. Gunther defeats Drew McIntyre and Sheamus to retain his Intercontinental Championship belt. What did you think of this match? I know that you love Gunther. You're a fan of Drew McIntyre. You're a fan of Sheamus. This match was just basically gorillas in a ring, and they were just smashing each other over a banana. I thought this was fantastic. I thought the way this was laid out was great. I think trying to get Gunther to beat the Honky Tonk Man's record, I think that is fantastic because I think he is a great champion. I think we're going to at some point see Sheamus take that belt off of Gunther. But for now, I love what they're doing with this story. I love this match. This for me was the highlight of night 2. This was absolutely incredible. What did you make of the Gunther, Drew McIntyre, and Sheamus match?
Yeah, stellar. Absolutely worthy of being even talked about in match of the night. All the best to these performers. They went in there, and it was, all you can say is credit the words of Sheamus, which is banger after banger after banger after banger, and well-deserved to get the cheers, to get the nod. Everybody universally was impressed with what the performers did. And that's what you're supposed to do, is challenge yourself to go steal the night. And that's what those performers did. And Gunther continuously, from his entrance to his presence to what he's able to do in the ring, to bring and what is nice is, for those of you that don't know old school wrestling, you can go back on Peacock and kind of look at some old school wrestling. It kind of harkens back to the days of Bruno Sammartino, Harley Race, and Gunther just is that old school, physical, but yet imposing, believable character that can go a long way. He's a WWE superstar, and you know he's one of the top 4 in waiting to take the next level, and he's going to get there, and I can't wait to see it.
Then after that, we ended up moving on to Bianca Belair defeating Asuka to retain. Good match. I don't think there was anything special. Now, what happened after this was incredibly weird. And I to me, this is kind of the first red flag of what is going to come the following day with a lot of different stuff. So The Miz is in the ring, and he's basically calling Snoop Dogg out because The Miz ended up having an impromptu match the night before that he was not ready for, that he ended up losing. And who answers the call for another impromptu match but Shane McMahon, who comes out all sweated up, super greased up, makes the 5-mile hike down the massive entrance ramp, which was incredible. It was absolutely incredible, but it is so damn long. Gets in the ring. Match goes about 39 seconds before he blows out his quad. Like, legit. Landed funny, and you could tell something wasn't right as he went to go get up, and it looked like a sniper took out his leg from above. Blows out his freaking quad in 39 seconds. The Miz is like, what the hell am I doing here? What's going on? Thank God Snoop Dogg and The Miz can improvise. Snoop Dogg ends up pinning The Miz. John, what the fuck was this? Why is Shane McMahon back in the company? What's going on? Mind you, 2 Royal Rumbles ago, Vince McMahon fired his son right after the Royal Rumble, was like, he will never work in WWE ever again. We haven't heard or smelled a peep of Shane McMahon. We end up getting a returning Matt Riddle on Monday Night Raw. You could have had Matt Riddle challenge The Miz, and we all would have been much happier. It would have been a much better surprise. Instead, you get The Miz, or you get Shane McMahon coming out, blowing his quad in moments, and it was chaotic. It was a mess. It was dumb. I just didn't understand this. What was this? What the hell happened here?
Creative karma, you would say. A terrible idea. And look, Shane is part of the company, and it's a surprise. That's fine. When his music hits, he's always going to garner the cheap pop. Everybody loves the feet shuffle. Everybody loves to see Shane McMahon. But this may have been his last in-ring moment, because the last couple have been very disappointing. Despite Finn Balor having a gash that was gnarly, Shane McMahon had the only real injury of the night. And here's the most frustrating part. We can laugh about it. Obviously, the karma hit. He blows out his quad. And I think The Miz could have played it up a little bit more by just jumping on top of him, beating the shit out of him. But, obviously it's a real injury. But it felt like The Miz kind of just did the whole what the hell's going on shock thing. And obviously it was in the cards for Snoop Dogg to do some physicality. So he just went. But unfortunately, when a man is moving at 0.02 miles per hour, him hitting the ropes, very weird, cuz let's replay it. It may be the first time in the history of someone running into the ropes where a dude hits the rope and then the rope doesn't bend anywhere. So
it doesn't move.
It was hilarious to see him throw his back into the rope and the rope maybe not even move. But Snoop Dogg is Snoop Dogg. But here's the most disrespectful thing. The crowd would have went apeshit if you just would have had Bobby Lashley and LA Knight just have a surprise match. I mean,
there you go.
That's all you have to do. You have performers that have earned it to be able to go out on the grandest stage of them all. For that to happen was disrespectful at the highest level in favor of Shane McMahon. That's where, if it's me, I would have a hard time. I'm sitting in a chair, comfy, watching television, and just sitting with your thoughts. And you're like, man, I'm LA Knight. I'm Bobby Lashley, and I'm spending my life traveling, working out, and you value me less than a 50-year-old dude who doesn't step in the ring for a pop. It just would bother me. It would put me in a meeting room and being like, what the hell? You can't give me a match.
What do I have to do?
What do I have to do? It's disrespectful at the highest level. What are you trying to do with my character where I can't get a match at WrestleMania and I'm grinding? I'm Bobby Lashley. This is a guy that could be a star. He has been a star. This is a guy that should be in the mix. So, creative karma, that's what happened. It was a flop.
It's absolutely brutal is what it was. All right, after that, you get Edge and Finn Balor. Finn Balor comes out as the demon, ends up taking a ladder to the top of the head, got 20-some staples, I think, to close his skull. He ends up continuing the match, so kudos to him. Look, a lot of people were upset that the referee kind of stopped things for a moment, but when you see what happened to Finn Balor, you could basically see my man's dome piece. Like, you could see his skull. I think the way WWE handled it was absolutely fantastic. Kudos to Finn Balor for finishing this match. I think the creative on this match was shit, though. Look, I love the new steel cage. It's gray. We got rid of that stupid red one. I think it's fantastic. But I feel like WWE may have killed the demon with some bad booking. You send the demon out. The demon's very comical. He basically no-sells a bunch of stuff. Ends up taking a loss to Edge, and like, this wasn't Brood Edge. This was like cosplay Brood Edge. It was very weird. Like, all of this was just, it was weird. It just missed the mark. And I guess the question is, maybe not so much did WWE kill the demon. I think maybe the question should probably be, have we just moved on from Demon Balor? Like, I used to love Demon Balor. I thought it was great. I thought it was great in NXT. I thought it was great the few moments we had it on the main roster. But I think this is Demon Balor's second loss. This one seemed comical. Ends up losing to 60-year-old Edge, who was pretending he was in his mid-20s. To me, Demon Balor is no more. I feel like you have to retire it. It was awesome when you had it, and then you broke it, and now you just got to throw it in the garbage. Where do you stand on Demon Balor?
It was disappointing because Hell in a Cell, had everything gone to form, would have been a special moment. But instead, there is a delay. There is obviously a medical break. And Edge sold it perfectly, and I think that it was handled well. But here's what happens. With Finn Balor going into 1.5 mode, it just felt like everything got rushed and speeded up. And it just felt like it was like spot. Let's get this done so I don't bleed out all over the place. And that's what made it really challenging to get into that match. It could have been special. And that is a match where people will appreciate Finn for his work ethic. But in my mind, it'll go down as a wasted opportunity to have a classic WrestleMania match. But unfortunately, when you throw a ladder at someone's head, it can be dangerous.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if you went back and rewatched it. I did, and it was rough. It was tough to watch because, like, as you're watching it live, you're like, what's going on? And then you go back, you rewatch it, and you know what took place. You could totally see the ladder step basically splitting Finn's hands, and he ducked his head. Thank God he ducked his head because he would have took it on the face. And you could see that ladder hit him in the head. And next thing you know, he looked a little bit dazed after. A pretty scary injury. Overall, I just kind of felt like the match was completely lacking. That gets us to our main event. And when I tell you there was a sense of a feeling, there was it was palpable. Like, you could almost reach out and you could grab it. It really felt like we were on our way to crowning Roman Reigns or crowning Cody Rhodes. It felt like this was going to be it. It was such a good match. Like, what their in-ring chemistry was absolutely great. Like, this match, it didn't miss a beat. It was awesome. The match itself was absolutely incredible. Like, kudos to both of these performers, because what they did when they went out there for like I said, roughly an hour, What they did in that ring was absolutely incredible. Only to have it end the way it ended with a returning Solo Sikoa who had been basically barred from ringside. You had a Paul Heyman interference move. Solo Sikoa jumps into the ring and hits him with the spike. Next thing you know, Roman Reigns is doing a spear and you get a pin. Did WWE completely blow this? And I think we've answered it throughout the course of us talking about WrestleMania. I think the resounding answer is yes. WWE blew this because, to your point, I don't know if Cody Rhodes will ever be or will ever feel as big as he has felt at this exact moment when the 1, 2, 3 came down for Roman Reigns. The air was sucked out of the arena. The fans just got up and walked out. Like the night before, they ended up staying an hour to 2 hours after when Sammy and KO win. In this match, Roman Reigns wins, and they just got up and walked out. Like nobody was hanging out. Everybody was upset. This was a monster blow. And look, I get you want to tell more of a story. That's fine. But I think you could have went about this different. I don't think you necessarily need to have Cody Rhodes have more hard times, because that's really what this feels like, right? This feels like it's more of a callback to Dusty. Like he needs to have hard times. Hard times makes better men, right? I don't know if we need that. You've kind of seen that. Like Cody Rhodes has told that story. He's told his story about having hard times, being Stardust, not liking it, being basically in legacy and thinking he was ready for it, and then finding out that he completely wasn't. Being so unhappy that he ended up leaving and then grinded on the indies and then grinded and really he is the godfather of AEW, created a company that rivals WWE and basically ran into some issues with the guy who ended up putting up the money to invest in it. It was like, cool, I'm leaving. Has left, has wrestled through a torn pec. Like we've seen that match. Like I don't know how much harder it has to be for the guy. I don't know what else you have to do. I just feel like I don't know where WWE is going with this, and it is incredibly frustrating. And I don't really know if there's a lot of times we like to pose a question to each other to allow the other person to answer. But I don't know if there's necessarily a question here, because I feel like WWE has crushed the momentum that Cody Rhodes had.
Yeah, and especially
it's frustrating.
Especially finding out where they think it needs to go next. It's just like, all right, that wasn't the story to be written. And I get it that and WWE does a great job with all now the new podcasters that are reporting on it. There's some great reporters that have inside access, and it's great. Paul Heyman basically said Cody Rhodes is a bigger star now because of the loss. Okay, fine. I get the theory. You tell yourself that what more could have been done had you given him the title. What are you talking about what more could have been done? You could have had the next chapter of his illustrious career being a star maker, being a guy that has great matches, being a storyteller. You could even have him pivot to Brock for being pissed off, for wanting now the rabid hunger of having to wait because Roman had the stipulation that he couldn't fight for the title anymore. So you could have done so many different things to turn, because here's the thing. WrestleMania is supposed to signal the end of a season, right? And to kick off a new season, it would be great to have a new champion. Yet you still have this lingering story about when Cody's going to win it. Is it SummerSlam? Is it next year's Mania? It's fine. I get the idea where now every match that Roman has is enhanced. Like, when's he going to drop it? They wanted to do the 1,000-day thing. That's fine. I get it. But again, you had an opportunity to kick off a new season with everybody being on board, especially when you're going to have news that maybe is going to upset people. I think the buffer of having you know how much positive spin you would have had having Cody on the Today Show, the Tonight Show, all the circuits, another sit down puff piece with Ariel Helwani. You could do so many great things after what happened. Instead, I get it. You made the money move. You see the graphic. It's Triple H's guy. It's Dusty's protege guy from developmental. I get it. But from where you're at, having already had the most successful WrestleMania, I just think you needed the extra buzz. And it would have been nice to have additional buzz, saying it could have ranked up there immediately with the top 5 all-time great WrestleManias. You've been rewatching it. I'm not. It's just, for me, a letdown. And speaking about it for 30 minutes has been great, but it's just, for me, a feeling of wasted potential and a wasted moment that could have been created. WrestleMania 39 in LA, capping off a great 2022 season, WrestleMania 39. And you did what you did, and we have to live with it.
Yeah, and this ends up, like I was saying before, this ends up leading into what happens on Monday. This ends up leading to what happens on Friday. This ends up leading into the big news of the week. We're going to get into that 1 second. Just to go over calling the card real quick, you got all of night 1 correct, Doc. We split night 2, so you end up taking the lead 2.5 to 1.5. So now you have the lead. Good job on calling all of night 1 correctly.
Nice.
Now, like I said, this spills into what takes place very shortly after. There were talks of WWE being sold to a company called Endeavor. If you don't know what Endeavor is a company that owns the UFC. Well, very early Monday morning, I think it was probably like 7:15 Monday morning, WWE is sold to Endeavor. Is this a good thing? And I don't know if this is a good thing. I think for WWE, this is really good because it can help strengthen the company. But I think overall, for the product that we're going to get, it might be one of the worst things that could have happened. I think with Endeavor does a great job with the UFC. They've got great deals. I think this, for a company, from a company standpoint, from a business standpoint, you have now merged 2 of the biggest fighting promotions, whether one is real and one is not, 2 of the biggest fighting promotions. You have put them together underneath one umbrella. So now when you are trying to market, when you are trying to develop TV contracts, you have a leg up, and you can now condense your on your corporate side, you can condense your marketing, you can condense your negotiating and TV structure rooms. You can save a bunch of money there. You also know what's going on as far as the business goes, because now WWE knows what UFC is getting, and UFC now knows what WWE is getting, so they can use that to leverage bigger contracts, more money for the actual company. Content-wise, I have major concerns because you probably have seen Vince McMahon and his molestache on NBC, MSNBC, CNN, all over the place. It feels as though Vince now has more power than ever before. It feels like that 9 months we had of Triple H being in charge was just a dream. It feels like all of that is just going to fade into the background. Vince McMahon has been on record of saying he doesn't want to be in the weeds. He doesn't want to be there day to day doing the grind of creative. I beg to differ with what we ended up getting on Monday, and we're going to talk about that here shortly. But where do you stand with WWE being sold to Endeavor? Do you think it's a good thing? Do you like this? Do you think this helps the company? Do you think this helps the product? Where are you at with it?
No, I agree with you. I think that from a company standpoint, with TV deals and leveraging and the opportunity, it's just going to make a company that much stronger in regards to sponsorships, opportunities for the wrestlers, in regards to the top people making more money. Look, it is from the standpoint of how Dana White has described it, is that, Mr. Manuel does everything well, that he lets you run your company. And if you need anything from like this or a contact or an opportunity, then he's there for you. So it's perfect. WWE is not going anywhere. And remember, they didn't sell the whole company. They sold controlling share, 51%. So the reason, and it's crazy because now you go back and you realize that Vince just needed time off to kind of decompress a little bit and kind of let the stank of the allegations go by. And then he came right back.
Handle all of his sexual lawsuits.
Yeah, he handled them all, and he came back roaring. It was like, basically, that was Vince's vacation. He took his 9-month vacation from his life, and he was still doing shit. And in the end, you realize that, look, this is what it was. This is what you do as a business person. You take your $1 million investment and you turn it into $3.4 billion for yourself personally. And you credit him for going out and getting Nick Khan, who is a power player, and Triple H. And yes, from literally it's funny because the most important thing to us is the creative part. But in the end, in the business world, it is the least important thing because because we hated WrestleMania, yet it drew this, it drew that, and it's very popular. And moving forward, they're probably going to get their third or fourth $1 billion deal. It's going to, in the end, come back to pinch the consumer because guess what's happened? As Triple H keeps announcing record gates, the ticket prices are going to go up, merchandise is going to go up, the potential of pay-per-views coming back potentially could come back in 2024, 25. So in the end, for the consumer, it sucks in that it's always going to cost us a little bit more to enjoy the same product. But in the end, WWE, then, now, forever, maybe the part that will splinter off is the together bullshit. Because if you keep fucking up the creative, which is what they've done for me this week, then, now, forever, I actually remember, if you go back 100 episodes, we were saying that we actually like the commentary more than the product itself. And that might have to be the case where, Ariel Helwani's Puff interviews and the podcasts and all the great reports from what's going on are actually better than the product. We'll see. In the end, we'll have a run with Cody Rhodes and it'll be fun. But the part that we all have to wrestle with, and you and Kenny are still traumatized, and you'll get over it. I'm not as traumatized. I'm not happy, but you guys seem like despondent, is Vince McMahon's back, baby. His vision of how the top guys are going to be is going to be there. And you know what that means? 6'4", 290-pound behemoths rolling around the ring. So, boys, get ready. It's the era of Omos 2024. Get ready. Get ready. I like it.
And that kind of leads us into what you ended up getting on Monday and what you got on Friday. I guess the big question is, are we the problem? Like, are we as fans, are we the problem, right? Are we the issue with the big show? Like what we had on WrestleMania, should we just be happy with what we got? Should we be happy with the Raw after Mania, which had approximately 32 minutes of wrestling for a 3-hour show? I felt like SmackDown was better than Raw, but I don't feel like it was good. I don't feel like it did anything. Do we have unrealistic expectations, or does the company just do a bad job of presenting the show and giving us the creative? Now, with Monday Night Raw, Vince McMahon was heavily involved in Monday Night Raw this past week. Vince McMahon, like you said, Vince McMahon is back. They say Triple H is going to maintain his creative role, but Vince McMahon is back running the show. There were numerous rewrites. They were live on air, and the production room ended up getting 3 different copies of scripts of things that had changed in the course of maybe an hour since they had just gone on. So it is crazy that we are kind of back where we were with Vince. There were numerous things that were planned that were scrapped, and there has been this just constant adjustment on Monday Night Raw. Now you fast forward to Friday and what you got on SmackDown. Vince apparently did a creative run through virtually. That's the report. Report is Vince was not in Portland. Vince was at home and basically through a Skype call went through and crossed out what he didn't like and essentially allowed Triple H to run the headset. Whereas on Monday, Vince started in the background and then slowly took over to where he was making the calls on the headset and pushed Triple H out of the chair. So are we just expecting too much? Because I feel like what we got for 9 months with Triple H was absolutely incredible. I thought it was great. I thought the storytelling was good. I thought the utilization of other wrestlers was really good. And it really has felt like over the course of the last week, maybe 2 weeks, it's felt like it's been much more Vince McMahon influenced, and it's been bad. And I don't know if we as fans have an unrealistic expectation of what it could and what it should be compared to what it is that they're giving us. I wonder if we are the problem.
No, we're not the problem. Here's the thing. I just got finished reading Eric Bischoff's book, and it's really interesting. It just basically is an oral history from his perspective of WCW and how they made money. But his book is titled Controversy Creates Cash. So they know, look, in the end, and it's the age-old adage, and people don't get it, and I understand it now the more that you see from the world of trying to get attention. In the end, bad press is great press. Good press is good press. Any press is good press. And when you have Fire Vince trending worldwide, all the discussion, all the articles, all the stuff, a guy like Vince is sitting there going, oh, they hate me today. He goes on, has his coffee, and goes, how much money do we make this week? And it's good. Okay. So what was the engagement level? Oh, my God, they're tweeting about how much they hate me? Beautiful. So in the end, WWE is talked about. in the end, what's going to happen is it's going to be covered at the level similar to the NFL, where good, bad, and different, people are loving the backstage dirt. Look, guys, for those that are listening, Kenny, you understand, I think this too, is that WWE has positioned itself with, in what world does a reporter get all this information to be able to have a subscription service? Where's it coming from? In one foul swoop, I could go, shut that shit down. And it's not happening. Why? Because there's more attention being drawn to the company, more discussion, more podcasts, more people that want to be puff reporters and be like, oh my God, Paul, tell me about your great managerial relationship with Roman. I love it. Tell me more. And Ariel's sitting there with a heart on that you can see through his pants. And you're just like, okay, could you just kind of, we know you love the product. Just be a little more serious in your reporting here, my man. But in the end, we're not the problem. In the end, WWE is masterfully marketing the product that they have. And they realize at this level, because even the shitty show that had 3 minutes of wrestling in hour one drew 2 million fans, 2 million viewers. You would expect if it was horrible that it would go from a 2 down to a 0.5. It didn't. People watched. They wanted to see what was going on. They had the tease, the knowledgeable tease where they say, oh, what's going to happen with Brock? So people waited through it, and they wanted to see a potential surprise. In the end, we all knew Raw after WrestleMania now, it's dead. It's killed. The hype behind it is done. They didn't have any real surprises other than Riddle. They didn't do anything great. The crowd, was there looking for something. And it's just, our expectations are that creatively we're going to be fulfilled. And I think for those that, for myself and kind of thinking my way through it right now, yeah, I think to avoid constant disappointment is you just sit back and take it like a movie. Hey, some endings are going to be good. Some endings are not. But in the end, that's what makes WWE special is they get you to care in one way or another. And they have strong, illicit responses. And that's all they want. They don't care because if it's good or bad. What will matter is if, okay, next week it goes down to a 0.8. If they lose 1 million viewers, I don't see it happening because there's other things to look at. But our expectations are that we want some payoffs. And they gave us one. They just didn't give us two. One day we'll get the double payoff, and one day Cody Rhodes will win the title, and we'll feel happy again.
I guess I don't know. I just feel like
Vince in control, baby. That's what we get. We've had it, and we got to live with it. It's not really new.
I feel like
it's not really new.
It's not new, but as a fan, I feel like you need to hold these companies accountable and hold them to an expectation.
Which is what?
It's just give us good shit. Like I don't have to necessarily agree with it, but it's got to be good. There are things with this programming that just doesn't make sense sometimes, and it's frustrating. Like I tune into a wrestling show and I get 32 minutes of wrestling in 3 hours. Like that's not good. I want good storylines, right? It's supposed to be soap opera-esque. There's one storyline that I care about. Like do a better job, and it just I feel like. With what Triple H was able to do in 9 months, I thought we were tracking in the right direction. At this point, I just feel like he's a spokesperson. Yeah. You've seen him come out now on Monday night. You've seen him come out on Friday night. He's been more present since Vince has been back in control in basically 2 days of television. And he's been on screen more in those 2 days that Vince has been in control
right.
than he has in the whole 9 months. Like
I'll say this, cause
he's just a spokesperson. He's a puppet head, and that is frustrating.
Yeah, I'll say this in regards to what would have made you really more devastated is when Vince took the company public, because what happens is. The vision of having this beautifully written, well told, on every storyline makes sense, things making sense, creatively fulfilled. That vision really goes out the window because Vince's efforts are diverted into how do I make my shareholders the most money? And in that sense, with that goal and vision being number one for a publicly traded company, Vince met his ultimate goal, which is, hey, I made my shareholders money, I sold the company, because we're sitting here like when you say in the weeds, we're talking about probably the 9th most important thing that is on the WWE docket, which is creative. They've done so many good things. If the product was so horrible, why does somebody come in and value the company at $9 billion and put him back? Why? Sexually, potentially all these allegations going on, the things that he did that weren't right, yet someone came and said, hey, I want to buy you. So what does that entail? There's dollars to be made. And yeah, of course, creatively, are we fulfilled? No. Could they have a more mainstream, a lot better opportunity to write better stories? Absolutely. Could we be here saying, hey, there should be more stars? Sure. But really, in the end, that's not Vince's goal at all. Vince is like, my God, there's all these podcasters talking about us and they hate us. And why do they keep watching? And that's the way it is. It's like, hey, if you're going to make billion-dollar deals, this is like the fourth and fifth one, and there's going to be more to come. So in the end, they are doing what they need to do to run the company. When you say hold the company accountable, they are accountable. They're accountable to the SEC. They're accountable to their shareholders. They're accountable now at the bottom line. They're accountable to it will turn around. Yeah, you can't charge people $100 tickets if your product is not good. You'll see a ding in sales. But bottom line, the company is running at a very high level with what they've got going on. So they don't have to. They don't have to have top of the end creative. They don't have to. They don't even have to do C-level creative at this point, because how many times have we talked about not payoffs? How many times? All the run with Vince and how awful it was. He still sold the company 9 months. Boom. $9 billion. So it's not fulfilling. Could it be better? Yeah, and we know, because creatively we're in that space. We want to maximize the investment that we do in watching it. But in the end, Vince is responsible to run the company to make billions of dollars, and that's what he's doing. That's what it is, and it's creatively. It's not.
You might be right. I might just have a fantasy in my head of what WWE should be and what it could be.
That's what I've been saying in the group chat all week, is that Vince could easily spend time, building 50 stars. But guess what? We've talked about it. When you build 50 stars, you know what you build? You build a headache, because all 50 stars want $4 million a year. When you have 4 stars and you pick the right one, now you have one guy making $6 million and another guy making $6 million and the rest making $250K. And you're like, this is good. This is why we don't have potentially 9, 10 different stars making $5 million, because that's a headache to the investor, which is like, oh shit, we can't have talent be more than 12% of our allocated funds here. We got to keep that way down. So that's business. And yeah, I think the most disappointment you would have is when Vince took the company publicly, is because it changes the focus completely to the shareholder, to making profit, to cutting costs, to making sure that the operations are great and answer to people who want to invest in your company. So yeah, it's not creatively fulfilling. And that's the tough part, is we just have to be, basically, I would say, dial down the disappointment in Cody, heighten the fact that, okay, the 2 guys that were in line sooner, who were invested in the company, if you look at it from a bigger perspective, Sammy and Kevin grinded through the tough times and Cody left. So they get the shine, and they waited longer. Now it's their run. So I'm focusing more on being more positive and saying, you know what? Let's enjoy the run of Sami Zayn for however long it lasts.
We'll see what happens. AEW, I think, stands in a great position with all this stuff going on around WWE to really capitalize. And I think they did on Wednesday night. They made the announcement that Nigel McGuinness is coming over to AEW. I think Nigel is great. Former Ring of Honor champion. He's done a lot of stuff with NXT. He's really good in the commentary booth. But I think the biggest signing was Jay White.
Yes.
How important are these guys for AEW? How much of a stake in the ground is really getting both of these guys? Because I think they bring different things. I think with Jay White, obviously you've got the crossover with Bullet Club.
Yep.
Also, he's the hottest free agent on the market right now. And then Nigel McGuinness, I think, is a guy who you could put in a number of different roles, and he's going to succeed. Mainly, I think he could be a guy who could take over in the commentary booth. We were talking on Friday night as we were watching Rampage, and the commentary booth is rough. Oof. I've discovered my disdain for Tony Schiavone. I think he's awful on commentary. Listening to JR, just get confused. Like Excalibur will say something, and then 5 minutes later, JR will have to say something, and he'll basically repeat what Excalibur just said, but he'll get things mixed up, and it is wrong. JR is in way over his head. Like, he does not need to be on the commentary booth anymore. He is old. He is broken. Put him away. Tony Schiavone is just a misfit toy. Does not need to be there. Taz is fantastic. Excalibur, I think, is very good. I think you could put Nigel McGuinness with them, and I think it could be a fantastic commentary team, and I think it could be a much more enjoyable show for AEW. But I want to get your perspective on how important is it to one, bring in Jay White, who, like I said, the hottest free agent on the market, And then bring in a guy like Nigel McGuinness, who is kind of a Swiss Army knife, can do a little bit of everything. How big is that for AEW?
Yeah, real big. I think it's nice. It's a good, because then you can sell that, hey, Jay White was pursued by WWE. It didn't happen. And I'm glad, too. I think for character development, for where Jay White needs to go to the next level, I think AEW is perfect. You can tell a story. You can have more character development. You can have better feuds. I think AEW, for certain people, is going to be better. So absolutely, they should take advantage. Is AEW going to take a chunk out of WWE? No. I just think that WWE is so far gone in terms of being ahead that, in essence, what AEW would have to do, and all you got to do is look to history, is they'd have to go steal Roman Reigns. You go steal their stars. And that's how you know that, okay, they're playing with the big dogs, is that they're just going to go take their talent and have surprises where all of a sudden Cody Rhodes shows back up on AEW, or Seth Rollins, Bobby Lashley. I mean, if they could start to pinch a Drew McIntyre and start taking the talent, maybe that'll be the next phase of their evolution, is to just take the talent, and you have the ready-made stars, and you can start bringing up your company. Jay White's going to be great. It's going to be fabulous, and I can't wait to see it. And AEW did a good job. They had their stars on the show, which was perfect. They didn't. Dynamite didn't get bogged down. And for me, the blessing is you can turn down the announcers and focus just on the wrestling and things like that. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. The announce team just has to step up. Man, it has to step up to take the next level, because that's how you communicate your ideas to the audience. And JR is just probably more suited to, like Kenny said, just do the interviews, kind of do more of the inside stuff that's produced and edited and cut that can be done in a way to highlight them. Live broadcasting, it's time. And he's old enough now. He's done it. Live broadcasting is a young man's game because it requires quick-paced processing. It's beyond JR at this point.
So AEW had a ton of stuff going on this week. They had Battle of the Belt 6. They had Rampage. I think you could really skip both of those. I watched them. I came away with not a whole lot. There was not a whole lot that I really gathered from those. But the ending of Dynamite I thought was interesting. I thought Dynamite was a really good show. I thought the match between FTR and the Guns was curious. I need your help because I'm not sure I really understood the psychology of the match. I'm not really sure that the build for this match was great. Now, look, I'm happy with the outcome. FTR is now your new AEW Tag Team Champs, and they're going to stay with AEW. There's no more of this game where they might go to WWE, might stay with AEW. We now know they are all elite, and they're going to be all elite probably till the end of their career. But I don't know if the Guns came out of this looking any better of a team, and that's the one thing. FTR can help make somebody. I don't know if the way this match was put together, if the Guns come out better for it and look like they should have been legit champions. I think FTR did a good enough job in this match, but overall, the psychology of it with the Guns constantly trying to cheat to get disqualified so FTR would lose, because the stipulation was FTR had to win the match in order to remain in AEW. I guess it played into it, but it just kind of was a miss for me. The Guns getting built up were kind of a miss for me. I like the Guns. I think the Guns, if packaged correctly, could be a really good tag team. I think Colton is really interesting. I think he's a good promo. I think he works really well as a heel. This match just for we knew it was coming, and for the build that we got, which I felt like was lacking, this just didn't deliver. This didn't feel as important as I feel like it should have felt. I just don't know what to make of this match in this main event on Dynamite. What did you take out of it? Because
and you said it eloquently.
I don't know.
Yeah. Here's what it is when you have this kind of build and the stakes, it lends to, and we have this model, a TV match and a pay-per-view quality match. And in the end, there's certain levels. Is it a main event kind of pre-show kind of match? Is it a TV main event match? Is it a pay-per-view worthy kind of situation? FTR, when they go out, you expect them to have pay-per-view level moves and maneuvers and reactions. And it kind of just felt like a match that was there that you just say, okay, it's going to be FTR versus the Guns this week, and the it didn't feel like a title match. It didn't live up to what a title match, because you need to give a little more selling, a little more of everything, a little more high spot, a little more psychology. And in the end, it just felt like a poorly produced match in regards to two teams that don't have yet the chemistry. And sometimes it happens where you have this vision of how a match should go, and you and I had this vision of like Rockers and Heart Foundation, and to that level with a champion and FTR. But in the end, it didn't work out that way. With the stakes at hand, it just didn't live up to expectations. It was a C+ match at best.
Yeah, pretty frustrating as far as just kind of the overall feel of the match. Something that should feel like it is much bigger, but it just kind of, to me, it missed the boat a little bit. All that being said, I thought Dynamite was really, really good. I'm going to give it my point for Show of the Week because I was super disappointed with Raw, disappointed with SmackDown. I feel like we've got some teeth with where we're going with Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, and Solo Sikoa. But I'm not 100% sure what direction that's going in right now. Also, my confidence is shaken knowing that Vince is essentially back in charge of creative. But AEW and Dynamite will get my point for Show of the Week. What's going to get your point for Show of the Week?
I agree. Dynamite was solid. MJF, whether you like him or you hate him, he definitely will keep your eyes drawn to that fool trying to sing and do his thing. And in the end, you got to go back and watch it again. And once you know what the chants were, to have a political figure up there and the crowd to chant lower taxes, I thought made me laugh and brought a little bit of levity to a stressful week.
Very nice. You want some news and notes?
Hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What made your list?
As we talked about to open the show, WWE gets its bidder. As we discussed, WWE was sold to Endeavor, and they are the parent company of the UFC. With the sale, WWE and UFC will merge and become one company. The new company layout will be as follows. The new company will be led by Ariel Emanuel. He's the chief executive officer who will also continue in his role as chief executive officer of Endeavor. Vince McMahon, the executive chairman of the board, and Mark Shapiro will be president and chief operating officer of both Endeavor and the new company. Dana White will continue his role as president of UFC, and Nick Khan will serve as president of WWE. The board of directors will consist of 11 members who will be appointed later, 6 of whom will be appointed by Endeavor and 5 by WWE. Endeavor now owns 51% of WWE, while the shareholders own 49%. Vince McMahon is still the largest shareholder in the company. And with the sale, this has left the door open for creative. And we've kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. A report from Fightful Select says WWE held a meeting with employees on Monday where it claimed that Endeavor isn't going to be involved in the creative process or production of the show. However, reports from Monday night now state that someone else took control of the show, and that was Vince McMahon, who was reportedly firmly back in charge at Monday night's WWE Raw after WrestleMania 39 show. Reports are there were last-minute changes to plans, and if you were wondering if Vince McMahon was behind those, the answer is yes. PW Insider confirmed this by saying there were a number of late rewrites to Raw just 15 to 20 minutes before the show, and McMahon continued to make changes during the show as it was happening. On CNBC Monday, after the announcement of WWE and the UFC deal with Endeavor purchasing WWE, McMahon had stated that he would be involved in the high level of creative, but not in the weeds. Not being in the weeds is the same exact phrasing he used in 2019 when he installed Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff as executive directors of Raw and SmackDown, respectively. We all kind of saw how that ended up. PW Insider stated that there was no doubt that McMahon was firmly back in charge as of the show on Monday night. That night was said to have started with Paul Levesque, Triple H, running the show on headset, but as the show progressed, McMahon became more and more involved and was directly overseeing the proceedings. WWE talent told PW Insider there was a huge negative shift in morale when people realized things were going back to the way they were before McMahon left. One source went as far as saying the place felt nuked. The feeling was that McMahon will be overseeing everything again going forward, but we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Again, on SmackDown, he did it remotely, so we'll see if it's going to be one of those things where the show has to be approved by him. When it's all said and done, he has final say over everything. Now, sticking with the sale of WWE, there is a law firm conducting an interview or an investigation of the sale. The Adam LLP law firm is investigating WWE over its transactions with Endeavor. A press release stated that Adam LLP alleges WWE's financial outlook and prospects are excellent, and yet the transaction values WWE's shareholders at only approximately $106 per share before the post-closing dividend, with Endeavor holding a 51% controlling interest in the new company and the existing WWE shareholders holding a 49% interest in the new company. The transaction agreement unreasonably limits competing bids for WWE by imposing a significant penalty if WWE accepts a superior bid. WWE insiders will receive substantial benefits as part of the change of control in agreements. What they're referring to there is Nick Khan, I think, got like $15 million. He got a $15 million bonus. Triple H got a $5 million bonus for the sale. So people were getting paid because of the sale. Essentially, the investigation will be on behalf of shareholders, whether WWE has obtained a fair price for the transaction. I think we can all agree they probably did. A big-time AEW wrestler announces he has a decision to make very soon. Speaking on Lucha Libre Online, Andrade El Idolo said, "I'm with AEW to make it clear. Soon my contract will expire. I had a tear in my chest, and I got surgery in November. I was out 4 months, but soon I'll be back. I was at the Hall of Fame accompanying my wife and to be next to a great friend, Rey Mysterio. He is a symbol for all Latinos, Rey Mysterio." While Andrade El Idolo made his debut in June of 2021 in AEW, it's unclear exactly when his contract is set to expire. Andrade El Idolo was spotted at WrestleMania 39, as he mentioned, at the Hall of Fame ceremony with his wife, Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair will be taking some time off after dropping the belt to Rhea Ripley. They are set to go do some traveling. So I don't know when we'll see Andrade back, but him and Charlotte are supposed to be going off to do some traveling. And to conclude with some sad news, WWE Hall of Famer Bushwhacker Butch, Robert Miller, has sadly passed away at the age of 78 earlier this week. Butch's passing was announced by his nephew Luke Williams, his longtime partner in the Sheepherders and Bushwhackers. PW Insider reported recently that Bush had flown from New Zealand to America, where he became ill, and he had a hospital episode shortly after arriving in Los Angeles. Miller was rushed to the hospital in Los Angeles by ambulance, but has sadly passed away at the age of 78. That's going to do it for this week's wrestling news and notes.
Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Our 60 minutes are up. Just went a little bit longer. Man, that was a good recap, basically, of everything we've talked about in our group chat, our reactions to WrestleMania. And look, even though this episode's not as exciting as our reactions, and things like that, it will turn around. WWE, look, even though Triple H right now has a boss, just like everybody else, there are good things to pay attention to. Gunther, the IC belt, Sheamus, the Brawling Brutes. You got, the top of the card with Sami Zayn and Solo Sikoa, who's an emerging star. You got Paul Heyman doing great work at the top of the card. Cody now is going to feud with Brock, and eventually, this is great because it's going to, at least, you would hope, that Cody goes over and he'll begin his journey. He's going to cry, "I got hurt, I got beat up." But in the end, watch his executively produced documentary this week on A&E with his dad. I'm sure it'll be a nice reminiscent, nice trip down memory lane regarding his dad and what he brought to the table. It'll be a good rivalry show too with Randy Orton and Undertaker. So there's some stuff away from the ring that's really good too. As much as we joke, a lot of good content that people are bringing with contracts and who's staying, who's going. While the in-ring product took a hit, in the end, it's just basically like your favorite team lost. They were winning the game 19-18 the whole way, and you felt like they were going to win, and the other team just threw a Hail Mary and kicked the game-winning field goal, and you feel like you're lost. But in the end, next week, we'll all come back and watch the game again. It'll rise again. I have a good feeling. And who knows, maybe in the end, Detroit fans will get the opportunity of a lifetime. I hope it's not Brock and Cody at SummerSlam. I hope it's not a continuation. I hope that, in some way there is a revisiting of Roman Cody 2 at SummerSlam. We'll see, but they're building now. Their summer feuds. We'll see what the overseas tours look like. And, guys, AEW, in their efforts to rise, they're going overseas. Let's see how many tickets they can sell overseas in Tony Khan's home country. So, wasn't a great ending to WrestleMania. Give it a B-, C+. in my mind. But one season ends, and now we look to the new season, and let's see where it goes. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I'm the Doc, John Macaroon. Podcasting time is over. For the mouth-breathing Mouth of Macomb, we'll be back next week to break down all of the great happenings in the world of wrestling on the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast.